I'm Jenn Dodd, and I'm a comedic actress who is fascinated by people. And I moved to New York 7 years ago to pursue a very dramatic acting career. And I went to Circle in the Square Theater School, and there I studied Chekhov and Mamet and Shakespeare. And I had every intention of going on to pursue being in a Shakespearean troupe and traveling the world and wearing big fancy dresses and wigs. And I wasn't cast in the Shakespeare play, and I was very saddened by that. And instead, I was cast in a comedy review. And afterwards, one of my classmates came up to me and was like, "Hey, I think this thing might be your niche." And he gave me a flyer for the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. And so I kind of went with that route. And I've recently been coming back to my acting roots. So I started a blog called General Assembly, which is about all the different people that I am blessed and cursed to see on a regular basis. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm originally from Texas. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with a little hiatus in Oklahoma. And when I first moved to the city, I talked like this, and I'd never had a bagel before. I think it gives me a definite advantage because I'm still fascinated by things, and it's probably one of my worst fears to become jaded or bored, because I find a lot of joy in people watching and the bizarre and ridiculous nature of things that only happen in New York. So I think that being from the South and being a little sheltered and growing up in a very small community has been an advantage for me, because I think it makes me appreciate things in New York a little bit more than I would if I was from the area. I, since I'm a struggling artist, I've worked a lot of jobs where I have to deal face to face with the general public. I've waited a lot of tables, and for 2 years I worked in a sales and customer service job at a cell phone store. And so, everybody has a cell phone. And so I was face to face with everybody in New York, race, color, creed, background, wherever. And I used to sit at my computer, and somebody would come in and be asking me questions about their phone, or going off on this ridiculous story about what happened to their phone and why it was messed up and whatever. And I would engage in these ridiculous conversations and sit at my computer, and I would be listening to them and checking their account, but I would be writing down, I'd be typing out what they were saying and our conversation just so I could keep it for later. I watch people on the subway. They're all the characters that I do are definitely influenced by people who I've met or people that I know, or a combination of the two. I think that comedy is gravitating more towards like a real story or a real joke, as opposed to like Rodney Dangerfield, who is very funny, but would set him up and punch him down like bada bing. And now, you have comedians like Louis C.K., who's one of my favorites, and he tells stories about his life. And so there's not really that much of a difference now, I guess. It's a show called I've Got Munchies, and it's a cooking and sketch comedy show for stoners. It comes on Monday nights at 11 in Manhattan. I've always really liked comedy, and I always got a kick out of making people laugh, and so it felt like a very natural fit. And after my 101 class, I was approached by my friend Tim, who asked me to join their sketch group, and it just all kind of, when you take a step in the right direction, I guess the universe kind of sees fit to help you along. This is like a comedy interview, and I'm like, well, what I actually believe in is I babysit rich kids on the Upper West Side. Yeah, if you want to talk about like an interesting look at humanity, it really is children because they're so raw and transparent. Some of them are. I did a stint where I was being sent to Westchester to babysit a very, very, very wealthy family, high profile family. And I would stay there for the weekends. And it was the most absurd and ridiculous thing I've ever watched in my whole entire life. And the kids are awful, awful. Well, here's the sad part is that the mother wasn't even the one that interviewed or hired me. The head nanny did. And I didn't meet the mother until the fourth weekend that I stayed there. There was one lady that I met one weekend, and her name was Darlene, and she looked like a bad knockoff of the Missus. She looked like exactly like the Missus, but a little frazzled. And the chauffeur guy told me, he was like this Russian guy, and he said to me, my first thing, he's like, "Do not touch Darlene. She's got the AIDS." That's what he told me. And then he told me that a bunch of other lies. But Darlene looked like she had the AIDS.